It's the third Tuesday in a row you've told yourself you'll go tomorrow. The gym bag's still in the trunk of the car, actually, has been for a couple weeks now. The charge still hits the card either way, same day every month, whether you showed up 0 times or 12. You glance at the notification, feel a small flicker of something, guilt, maybe, or just noise, and swipe it away like every other receipt. Quick note, not financial advice, just what happens when you actually run the math on where that charge goes instead. The national average gym membership runs somewhere between $50 and $69 a month right now. Let's use the low end, $50, because this isn't about the expensive boutique studios. It's about the plain, ordinary membership sitting on your card statement that you've stopped even noticing. Some cost less, some cost a lot more. A premium club can run $200 or $300 a month, and the same math on those numbers gets dramatic fast. We're deliberately starting with the boring, unremarkable number, because the boring number is the one most people actually have. Here's the number that doesn't show up anywhere on that statement. Take that same $50 a month and put it into an index fund instead, averaging a fairly standard long-term return of around 7% a year after inflation. Do that for 25 years. You end up with about $40,500. You only put in $15,000 of your own money over those 25 years. The other $25,500 is just what happens when money sits somewhere long enough and compounds. That gap, the part you never contributed, the part that showed up on its own, is the actual hidden cost of the $50, not the $50 itself. What the $50 could have quietly become. Nobody ever sees that $25,500 as a single moment. It doesn't arrive as a check in the mail or a number that suddenly appears. It's just the quiet difference between the person who redirected $50 a month starting at 28 and the person who didn't, standing next to each other at 53, no idea why one of them has an extra $40,000 sitting there. 25 years sounds like a long time when you're the one living through it, but it's not an unusual stretch to hold a gym membership. A lot of people join in their late 20s or early 30s and are still paying for one on and off into their 50s. The number isn't hypothetical, it's just math nobody bothered to run at the time because $50 a month never feels like a number worth running math on. Now before this turns into cancel your gym membership. It isn't that, and it shouldn't be. If you're someone who goes 3 times a week and it's genuinely part of your life, that's $50 well spent. Full stop. No math required. Health has a value that doesn't show up on a spreadsheet, and this video isn't trying to put a price tag on showing up for your own body. This is about a specific, much more common situation that has nothing to do with fitness at all. Here's the part almost nobody talks about. An estimated 67% of gym memberships go unused or barely used. Not used less than they should be. Barely used. The average member visits about 6 times a month now, down from roughly 8 or 9 just a few years ago. And about half of everyone who signs up quits within their first 6 months, while the charge, in a lot of cases, just keeps running. Sit with that 67% for a second because it's a strange number. It means the typical membership isn't a fitness expense at all statistically. It's closer to a subscription that happens to have a treadmill attached to it, one that most people stop opening after the first few months, the same way a lot of apps get downloaded once and never touched again. Picture the version of this that actually happens to people. January new membership, genuinely motivated. 2 visits the first week, 3 the second, a real routine starting to form. By March, life gets busy. A work deadline, a cold that turns into 2 weeks off, a schedule that just never quite resets back to normal. The visits drop to once a week, then once every couple weeks. By June, it's been 7 weeks since the last visit, but cancelling feels like admitting something, so the card just keeps getting charged. That's not a fitness problem. That's a $50 a month subscription running silently in the background of someone's life who forgot it was still active. That's the version this video is actually about. Not the person using the membership, but the money quietly compounding away from someone who stopped going 5 months ago and hasn't looked at the statement closely enough to notice. There's no single moment where a decision got made. Nobody sat down and chose to keep paying for something they'd stopped using. It just never got unchosen, which turns out to be functionally the same thing over enough months. Here's where the math gets uncomfortable in a useful way. If that same person had redirected even 8 of those unused months, not the whole membership, just the stretch where they genuinely weren't going, into an investment account instead, at the same 7% long-term average, that alone is real money by the time retirement rolls around. It's not a dramatic number in the moment. $400 redirected for 8 months doesn't feel like anything. It's what $400 becomes over 25 years that makes it worth noticing. And this happens more than once in most people's lives. A membership joined, half used for a stretch, forgotten, eventually cancelled. Then rejoined 18 months later with the same optimism, the same 3 good weeks, the same slow fade. 2 or 3 cycles like that over a couple of decades, and the unused portion alone starts to rival what a genuinely well-used membership would have cost the whole time. And gyms aren't actually the point here. They're just the clearest example because the charge is fixed, recurring, and easy to forget about. The exact same math applies to the streaming service nobody's opened in 4 months, the subscription box that seemed like a good idea in a moment of impulse, the app charging $12 a month for a feature used once. None of these individually look like a financial decision. Each one is $10 or $30 or $50 a month, forever, until someone actively stops it. Add 3 or 4 of those up: a gym, 2 streaming services, a subscription box, an app or 2. And it's not unusual for a household to be quietly running $150 or $200 a month in charges nobody's actively evaluating anymore. Picture a couple sitting down once, actually going through the bank statement together, both a little surprised by how long that list turns out to be. A few of them useful, a few they'd forgotten existed entirely. Run that same 7%, 25-year math on $150 a month instead of $50, and the number stops being $40,000 and starts being well over $120,000. Same forgettable feeling every month. Completely different number by the time it's actually counted. The reason this specific kind of cost is so easy to miss is that it never asks permission twice. A big purchase gets scrutinized. You think about a $2,000 laptop for a week before buying it, compare a few models, maybe sleep on it. A recurring $50 charge got scrutinized exactly once the day you signed up, and then it runs on autopilot every month after that. Past the point where the original reason for it even still applies. Nobody reapproves a subscription. It just keeps its original approval forever, whether or not the reasoning behind it is still true. That's really the whole mechanism behind how a $40,000 number hides inside a $50 charge. Big decisions get reconsidered because they're big enough to notice. Small recurring ones get automated past the point of noticing, which is exactly why they're the ones that end up costing the most over time. Not because any single month is expensive, but because no single month ever feels expensive enough to stop and check. Here's a useful gut check, and it takes about 2 minutes. Pull up your bank statement, scroll through the recurring charges, and for each one, ask a single question. If this charge showed up for the first time today, would you sign up for it right now, at this price, given how you're actually using it? Not how you used it 8 months ago, right now. Anything that fails that test is a candidate, not because $50 is dramatic on its own, but because of what $50 a month quietly turns into over a couple of decades. Most people who actually do this exercise find at least one charge they'd genuinely forgotten was still active. Not a big dramatic discovery, just a quiet, oh right, I'm still paying for that moment. That moment, multiplied across however many forgotten charges are sitting there, is usually where the real money is hiding. Not in one big expensive mistake, but in 3 or 4 small ones that all individually seem too small to bother checking. The fix here isn't extreme, and it isn't about deprivation. It's just closing the gap between what a subscription is quietly costing and what it's quietly worth to you if the gym membership earns its $50 every month because you're actually there. Keep it. No asterisk. If it's been sitting untouched since March, the $50 doesn't disappear either way. It either keeps compounding for a version of your life you're not living, or it starts compounding toward one you are. Same logic, different direction. The fix isn't always cancel it. Sometimes it's actually use what you're already paying for, which accomplishes the exact same thing, closing the gap between the cost and the value, just from the other side. A membership used 3 times a week isn't a hidden cost at all. It's just a normal expense with a normal, obvious return on it, the same as any other purchase that gets its money's worth. And for the version that does get cancelled, the harder part usually isn't the math, It's the 10 seconds of admitting the membership didn't work out the way it was supposed to. That admission costs nothing, letting the $50 keep running instead, quietly, for another 18 months out of pure avoidance, costs considerably more than the 10 seconds would have. Here's the pattern underneath the gym membership, the streaming service, and every other small recurring charge quietly running in the background. None of them feel like a financial decision when they start. They feel like $50, which is nothing. But nothing repeated monthly for 25 years without ever being reconsidered is how $40,000 goes missing without a single dramatic moment to point to. No crisis, no bad month, no big mistake. Just a charge nobody looked at twice after the first time. That's a strange kind of loss when you think about it. Most financial regrets have a moment attached to them. The purchase you shouldn't have made, the investment you pulled out of too early. This one doesn't. There's no single Tuesday you can point to and say that's when the $40,000 went missing. It went missing in tiny, forgettable pieces 12 times a year for 2.5 decades, which is exactly why it never once felt like it was happening. If this is the kind of thing you think about, stick around. That's basically what this channel is. And before you go, pull up your statement, find one recurring charge you haven't thought about in months, and tell me in the comments what it is. I read everyone.